The river did not ripple. That was the first thing the fishermen noticed on the morning the legend returned. Papua New Guinea's Green Veil River, named for the way dense canopy light stains the water, a deep emerald usually wakes with a low murmur of current against its banks. But on that morning, the surface lay still as polished stone. A mirror, broken only when something long and deliberate moved beneath it. He did not see the creature itself. No one ever does. What he saw instead was a distortion, a shape gliding under the glass-like surface, bending the reflection of the trees as if the river itself were inhaling. For a moment, the water brightened around its spine, as though something transparent had reflected the solitary shaft of sunlight slicing through the forest roof. He raised his old digital camera. The screen captured nothing but a smear of color, a perfect river, an imperfect blur. This was not the first failed photograph. For nearly 2 decades, villagers along the Green Veil have spoken of the glass-backed crocodile, a predator whose upper body seems to dissolve into the very water it swims through. They say its back reflects light so precisely that it merges with the river, making it nearly invisible from above. Hunters described it as a crocodile with no outline, a creature that becomes real only when it chooses to strike. Researchers dismissed the stories at first until livestock began disappearing. Without splashes, without drag marks, without the violent churn a typical saltwater crocodile leaves behind. It was as if something had taken them silently, slipping beneath them and pulling them into the green void. A few scientists arrived with infrared cameras and motion sensors. Every image they gathered came back corrupted. Twisted reflections, fractured water patterns, silhouettes that erase themselves at the edges. One researcher wrote in his notes, "It moves like a shadow pretending to be water." Locals believe it swims directly beneath canoes without being detected, its translucent back hiding it from the eyes of those sitting just meters above. Some say they felt its presence, a cold, rising pressure below the hull before it drifts away again. Soundless. If the eyewitnesses are right, then somewhere within these green depths lives a predator evolution sculpted into an illusion. A hunter concealed by the very substance that sustains it. What if the river has been hiding a shape all along, one we were never meant to see clearly? The Green Veil River is not an ordinary stretch of water. It runs like a dark ribbon through one of Papua New Guinea's most remote forest corridors, a place where sunlight rarely touches the ground and the canopy filters the world into shifting shades of green. From above, the river appears almost opaque, a liquid mirror that swallows detail. Even seasoned trackers say it behaves differently, absorbing shadows rather than casting them. For generations, the river has been a boundary between the known and the untold. Villagers who live along its banks describe it with a mixture of reverence and caution. They claim the river remembers everything that sinks into it, a poetic warning passed from elder to child. But in recent years, their stories have taken on an edge of fear. Livestock tied near the shallows vanish without sound. Fishing nets return, shredded but unstained, as if torn underwater by something that never breaches the surface. At dusk, the river becomes even more unsettling. Mist clings low over the water, muting the world into a single blurred horizon. It is in those hours that villagers report seeing elongated distortions gliding beneath the surface, shapes that feel too controlled, too purposeful to be drifting debris. One man recalled watching a smooth arch rise just far enough to catch the fading light before sinking again, leaving no ripple behind. He did not sleep for 3 nights afterward. Researchers studying the region noted another pattern: the river's unusual light absorption. Its deep green hue, caused by tannins and dense vegetation runoff, creates near-zero visibility beyond a few feet. Combined with its reflective surface, it forms the perfect environment for any predator that relies on stealth. But villagers argue this explanation is too simple. They say the river did not gain its reputation from darkness alone. It gained it because something inside it learned to use that darkness. Boatmen tell of moments when they felt their canoes shift as though brushed by a submerged log, only to find the water perfectly still a second later. Others describe the eerie sensation of being watched from below, a pressure that rises through the hull like a silent exhale. To them, The glassback crocodile is not a rumor. It is a presence. One the river protects as fiercely as the creature itself. The first photographs were dismissed as accidents, overexposed frames, shaky hands, reflections misread as movement. But as more attempts surfaced, a pattern emerged. Every image taken on the Green Veil River seemed to collapse at the exact moment the alleged creature entered the frame. Shapes warped. Colors bled into each other. Entire portions of the river lost definition. As if the camera's sensor could not interpret what it was seeing. One fisherman described it best. He had followed a faint distortion gliding under his canoe, a thin, elongated shimmer that bent the forest's reflection like a blade slicing through glass. When he raised his phone and snapped a picture, the preview showed nothing but a smear of green, as though the river had erased its own secrets out of instinct. "It's like the water refused to tell the truth," he whispered. A biology student who visited the area with a thermal camera believed he could outsmart the legend. Thermal imaging, after all, should detect heat signatures, regardless of camouflage. But each of his recordings suffered the same fate. The moment a heat shape began to form beneath the water's surface, the image fractured into static, as if something warm and alive was disrupting the signal from within. Local elders weren't surprised. They claimed the creature's back was not made to be seen, describing its scales as so reflective or so strangely translucent that light doesn't bounce off them in recognizable ways. Instead, it scatters, bending into the water and merging with the river's natural patterns. According to them, this is why the predator is nearly impossible to track. It doesn't simply hide beneath the water, it becomes part of it. A boatman added another chilling detail. While crossing the river at dawn, he noticed a faint pressure beneath his canoe. A slow, upward push, as though something broad and muscular was rising directly under him. He froze, listening. No splash, no ripple, just the quiet rearranging of the river's surface as the shape drifted away again. When he later checked the footage from a small action camera mounted on the stern, the video skipped several frames during the exact moment he felt the shift. Researchers now debate whether the creature's unusual appearance could interfere with light itself, creating distortions not only to the naked eye but also to digital sensors. Whatever the truth, one fact remains clear. Every attempt to capture the glassback crocodile reveals something strange, but never the animal itself. Scientists who first heard the stories dismissed them as exaggerations shaped by fear and isolation until the evidence refused to behave like ordinary river lore. Livestock disappearing without splashes, canoes shifting with no visible cause, photographs collapsing into distortions the moment a shape entered the frame. These observations left a single unsettling possibility. If the creature exists, it may be operating under physical principles that science has not fully confronted. The first hypothesis centers on the creature's reflective scales. Saltwater crocodiles already possess armor that gleams when wet, but villagers describe something more extreme: scales that behave like polished glass, redirecting light so precisely that the back becomes nearly indistinguishable from the water. Under this theory, the glassback crocodile would be a master of optical deception, its body erasing itself by mirroring the world around it. The second hypothesis is biological camouflage enhanced by the river itself. The Green Veil carries unusual concentrations of algae and suspended minerals that cling to submerged surfaces. If a crocodile were to remain motionless for long periods, a living film of microalgae could form across its back, turning the animal into a shape-shifting canvas that changes with the river. Researchers studying similar phenomena in fish have noted how certain species use algae growth as a passive form of disguise, an evolution born not from speed, but from stillness. Then there is the third and most debated possibility, a genetic divergence. A subpopulation of crocodiles adapting to an extreme environment over generations could develop scale structures that refract light differently, creating the illusion of transparency. Fragmentary reports describe specimens longer and narrower than typical saltwater crocodiles, with atypical swimming patterns that favor silent glides directly beneath the surface rather than the sudden lunges seen in conventional ambush predators. What unsettles scientists most is not the creature's rumored invisibility, but its behavior, unlike other crocodilians that rely on explosive strikes from the shallows. Witnesses claim the glassback crocodile approaches from below, drifting upward until prey is within reach. This method leaves no disturbance, no swirl, no sound, no warning. It is the hunting style of a predator that has evolved not just to blend in with its environment, but to weaponize silence itself. And yet, despite all the observations, theories, and distorted images, no one can say with certainty what moves beneath the Green Veil River. Perhaps the creature is simply a trick of optics. Or perhaps it is something far rarer, a reminder that evolution still holds secrets in places where human eyes rarely linger. As the sun drops behind the canopy, the river changes character. Its emerald surface darkens into a sheet of black glass, reflecting nothing but the faint shimmer of distant fireflies. It is in this hour the quiet overlap between dusk and night that most encounters occur. Not sightings, but sensations. A shift in pressure beneath a canoe. A sudden stillness in the water. The impression of a vast shadow sliding just out of view, as if the river itself is holding its breath. Recent reports from the villages downstream have grown more unsettling. Livestock tied securely near the bank vanish without the violent churn typical of crocodile strikes. Instead, owners find only a single drag in the mud, faint and nearly circular, as though something rose vertically from the depths, gripped its target, and slipped back down without disturbing the water's surface. Hunters whisper that this creature does not attack from the side, it ascends from below, hidden beneath its cloak of moving reflections. One fisherman recounted an incident at dusk. As he paddled toward shore, his canoe lurched forward several inches, pulled not by current, but by an unseen force beneath him. When he looked down, the water appeared perfectly smooth, a flawless mirror showing no hint of movement. He described the feeling as being lifted by something that didn't want to be noticed. The experience left him unable to cross the river alone again. Some scientists suggest these events could be attributed to ordinary, quote, crocodiles, large, elusive, and opportunistic. But villagers reject this explanation, insisting that traditional crocodiles make noise, leave ripples, reveal themselves in the patterns of disturbed water. The glassback crocodile, they say, is different. It does not break the surface. It does not warn. It does not fail. On rare occasions, a boatman claims to have seen the faintest suggestion of a form beneath the water. A long, pale shape, curving like the arc of a spine, just before sinking into deeper shadow. But even these moments are brief, ambiguous, too fleeting to confirm, too vivid to forget. In the end, the creature's existence hinges on more than evidence. It hinges on the space between what is seen and what is felt, between the reflections that deceive and the silence that conceals. The Green Veil River holds its secrets tightly, and whatever glides beneath it thrives in that secrecy. Perhaps that is why the legend persists, not because people are certain the predator exists, but because the river behaves as though it does. Night in the Green Veil River arrives without ceremony. One moment the forest glows with fractured light. The next, everything is consumed by a darkness so complete that even the sound of insects feels muted. Under this curtain of black water, the creature, whatever it is, moves with a confidence that suggests ownership. The river is not merely its habitat, it is its weapon. Villagers say the river becomes different after sunset. Canoes drift more quietly. Fish stop breaking the surface. Even the wind seems reluctant to disturb the water. Those who have crossed the river at night describe a strange sensation, a tension rising from below, subtle but unmistakable, as though something vast is aware of them long before they sense it in return. A young researcher once spent 3 nights on a floating platform fitted with underwater microphones. He hoped to capture evidence, anything that might indicate a large predator navigating the depths. The recordings returned with the same eerie signature, long stretches of silence interrupted by sudden, low-frequency pulses, too regular to be geological. and too deep to belong to known species. When enhanced, the pulses formed a pattern resembling slow, deliberate movement, followed by complete stillness. The kind of stillness a hunter uses before rising upward. Yet even with these clues, nothing conclusive emerges. The river keeps the creature half real, half absent, suspended between biology and myth. Every explanation dissolves into uncertainty the moment it approaches the truth. That is the defining trait of the glassback crocodile. It does not allow people to believe or disbelieve fully. It offers just enough presence to haunt those who encounter it, never enough to prove itself. Some elders propose a final thought, spoken softly, as if the river itself might be listening. They say that perhaps the creature's advantage is not its camouflage, nor its silence, nor whatever strange evolution shaped its transparency. Its greatest power may lie in its understanding of the river, a bond so complete that predator and water become inseparable. A single shifting entity that chooses when to reveal a hint of shape and when to erase it entirely. And so the Green Veil River remains a place where certainty evaporates, a place where something moves without being seen, hunts without being heard, exists without leaving evidence. A reminder that not every predator needs to be captured on film to be real. Some creatures endure because they survive. Others endure because they hide. But the ones we fear most are those that can do both. When dawn returns to the Green Veil River, it brings with it a deceptive calm. Sunlight touches the surface, turning the black glass back into shifting emerald. Birds resume their calls. Canoes ease into the water. Life pretends that the night held no secrets. And yet, beneath this returning light, something lingers, an awareness, a presence. A question the river never answers directly. The villagers have learned to live with the unknown. They do not attempt to solve it. They simply respect the boundaries it creates. To them, the glassback crocodile is not a monster or a myth, but a reminder that the wild is not obligated to reveal itself. Some truths belong to the forest. Some shadows belong to the water. And some predators, by design or fate, remain half-formed in our understanding. As if nature carved them from the spaces we cannot see. Maybe the creature is a rare mutation, an evolutionary outlier, shaped by an environment where survival depends on vanishing rather than attacking. Maybe it is a subpopulation that developed its own tactics over centuries, perfecting silence and invisibility until the line between animal and illusion blurred completely. Or perhaps it is something else. A symbol of the limits of our perception, the boundary where human certainty dissolves into the unknown. For those who have felt the shift beneath their canoe or glimpsed the distortion sliding under the surface, the experience changes something. It turns the familiar into the uncanny. It teaches a quiet lesson that not everything in the natural world is meant to be captured, categorized, or understood. Some creatures live in the tension between presence and absence, anchoring themselves in the gaps of our knowledge. As the river flows on, the legend persists, not loud, not exaggerated, but steady, like a pulse beneath the water. Whether the glassback crocodile is real, or simply the river's reflection of our deepest instincts, it continues to shape the way people move through this place. They watch the water a little longer, they listen a little harder, they accept that something unseen may be drifting beneath them. In the end, the creature's greatest power may not be its invisibility or silence, but the mystery it leaves behind, a reminder that the wild is vast and our understanding of it is small. Somewhere in that margin, a predator may be gliding through the green depths, unseen but always felt.